Guys, sorry for starting this video from the bad news, but here is the Ukrainian Neptune missile which was hit by Russian Iskander recently. It happened in Zaporizhia Oblast. We have this video from the Russian surveillance drone. Definitely it's very close to the system. It fired one of the missile and was ready to launch the second one, but there was the strike very close to the vehicle, however not exactly at the vehicle. You can see the trace from the shrapnel in this area. So of course the vehicle was hit, and later on this engine, the booster engine, started to operate. It was triggered by the shrapnel coming from Iskander. As you may see, all around there is some sort of the fog. Those are small particles, tiny little metal parts which are in there in Russian Iskander. They hit everything all around, but the missile itself, I don't see that it kaboomed really. It was damaged, the system itself, but kaboom didn't happen. And I just hope that the armor of the cockpit and the cabin stopped the shrapnel coming from the Iskander missile. For now, I do not have the information about the crew of the system, whether they're okay or not, but for sure Ukraine lost one of the launchers. It was at least significantly damaged, and at least one of the missiles was damaged too. By the way, it was not this new modification of Neptune, it was the standard R-360 missile, with kind of the limited range but still capable. So again, Russia works in combination with ballistic missiles and also surveillance drones. Ukraine uses the similar tactics with HIMARS, but Iskanders obviously they have way longer range compared to HIMARS standard missiles. I would say that Neptune was hit very close to the front lines, 25 kilometers away. Nevertheless, I still have questions how Russians knew that it would be deployed at this specific spot. Because Neptune is the mobile vehicle, there is the small time window for it to launch missiles and leave the place. So my speculation is that Russians knew about this launch well before someone gave this information. I know that I always say like that, then Ukrainian Patriots were also demolished by Russian Iskander, a couple of the HIMARS systems, and it all gives us the question how it happens. I would understand about the military airfields, Ukrainian bases, which are stationary, but here, no. I have lots of the questions here. Yeah, this is like one more variant of the vehicle. It has the armor, cockpit and cabin all together. Probably this Neptune launcher was the one, or at least this type, judging on the video. Guys, today I told you about Ukrainian ship which was hit by something. At first I saw that it was the Russian cruise missile, but I was wrong, we have more data. Russians openly share it, and this is the video filmed by the drone boat. It's the first time I see the Russian strike using the drone boat. Yeah, they learn from Ukraine. Guys, this is bad. Especially if we check out the place where it happened, right at the border with Romania. This is Dunaba River, so the ship was out there. This river is the border between Romania and Ukraine. You may see it on this map, right? So Russian drone somehow went into the river, maybe over here, maybe over here. The actual place is unknown, but Russia has capabilities to go into the rivers even and to maneuver their drones into boats, ships and other infrastructure. And this is happening right at the edge or even touching the NATO territory. Actually, before we haven't seen published successful tests of the Russian drone boats, most of them failed, but now we see them in action. And it was, I guess, also Ukrainian mistake not looking forward for this possible threat. Again, if we check out this video, crew was not alerted. They saw the drone just before the impact. That's it. And I wonder what happened to the ship, because Russians say that it sank down. Well, it could be like that. I guess we'll have more information tomorrow. So what Ukraine should do is to put some gates like Russia did near the Kerch Bridge or near Sevastopol, plus arm the crew, alert them, maybe install some of the turrets, deploy the coast guards, maybe with Romania together, because it's actually the border. This case is definitely not good. If Ukraine had Navy fleet, it would be under the significant threat, but Ukraine has just few of the ships. None of them are deployed in the Black Sea, but even in the rivers there is the threat. Today there is the tragedy happened in Poland with one of F-16s, and this pilot, whose name is Maciej Krakowiak, I hope I spelled this correctly from Polish. He was the commander of the Tiger Demo team, and there was the training flight of him piloting F-16 and it crashed. Yeah, we have this video showing the last moment, so the airplane went to the loop or on the loop. It was very close to the ground. Everything was working fine, and simply there was not enough altitude. The airplane crashed into the ground, turned to the firewall. So clearly miscalculation from what I see. Again, the engine was working. It seems like the airplane was controllable. Yeah, it was just visual miscalculation of the pilots. Even professional pilots do mistakes. Unfortunately, this one cost the life for this pilot, and luckily no one on the ground was hurt. Yeah, huge loss, and Polish guys, my condolences to you, especially for family of this pilot. Yeah, sorry guys for the bad news at the beginning of the video, but I think that those are important, so I want to tell them at first. From the good news, we have still not confirmed information, but Russians write about it that Druzhba pipeline is under the strike again. Magyar performing his duty task, and I wonder if we'll have one more message from Peter Siarto or someone from Hungary. They really love this Druzhba pipeline, don't they? Again, guys from primary unit are doing their task in the best way possible, but you may see that those drones, they're kind of the clumsy. It's hard to control and point them directly to the target. It's kind of hard to tell whether they made it, but I think they did. So I would work on stability of the drones. Maybe there is the problem with the signal. Maybe there is several milliseconds delay for transmitter or receiver, but yeah, it's not very stable. Our Ukrainian experts and Russians also, they say that those drones sometimes miss the targets and fly over to the sides, but most of the drones, after all, hit the target. It is also hard to confirm the strike because you don't have surveillance drone flying nearby correcting the FPV drone of the classical airplane type flying to the target, so it's really hard to coordinate precise strike. Nevertheless, sometimes Ukraine is very successful with those. Guys, here I want to put extra attention for the false information stated in many of the Ukrainian and pro-Ukrainian channels. Unfortunately, yeah, it was not confirmed at first and was posted. I also believed in that and shared it in my last video, but here I want to dismiss the fake that indeed PBS engines, those small jet engines, were not used for Shahed drones. And here we have the statement of the company itself. They say that it's not possible. They say that the engines are visually similar to PBS engines but not manufactured by PBS. We deny any involvement in this case. No evidence suggests that PBS engines is used in Shahed 238 drone. So because they look similar, or in this case the same, I would say, it doesn't really mean that PBS supplied their engines to Russia. No, Russians or Iranians could buy those engines and basically copy them. Sorry guys from PBS company, but this engine really looked like yours. Even the same color print, I would say, so it was really easy to believe in that, but if you stated you didn't supply those things to Russia, well, I believe you. I guess everyone believes, and as a variant, there could be that someone bought your engines somehow and supplied them to Russia via the third countries. It could be one of those scenarios, and I guess still we need to open up the engine and check out the markings, whether it fits your production or not. I think it may not fit, because they could copy your engines and use them elsewhere, mostly on Shaheds, yeah. But definitely this company, in its intention, has nothing to do with this strike. As you see, guys, I'm always happy to say that I was wrong, then I was definitely wrong. But it was really hard to cross-check. By the way, what's the White House reaction on today's strike on the Ukrainian capital city, and not only?
General Keith Kellogg, the president's special envoy, has described these attacks as egregious. Do you agree with that description, and do you view President Putin as an impediment to getting peace between these two countries?
Well, it's not about if I agree, it's about what the president thinks, and I know what the president thinks because I talked to him about this. He was not happy about this news, but he was also not surprised. These are two countries that have been at war for a very long time. Russia launched this attack on Kyiv, and likewise, Ukraine recently dealt a blow to Russia's oil refineries. They have taken out, as a matter of fact, 20% of Russia's oil refinery capacity over the course of their attacks throughout the month of August. So the president is continuing to watch this intently, and this killing, unfortunately, will continue as long as the war continues, which is why the president wants it to end.
So here she tried to compare the strikes of Ukraine on Russian oil refineries. Then journalists asked her about the strikes on civilian infrastructure. I think there are two big differences here. So Doni again is not happy. Is not happy about the Russian strikes. Putin, stop! He shouted many times before, but after all he met with Putin and he's kind of fine with that dictator. Maybe because he wants to be dictator himself, but in fact he's just an orange clown. And here we go, this night could be really interesting for Russia. Ukraine launched some of the drones to the Russian airspace. Crimea, Krasnodarsky Krai, Kursk, Voronezh, Moscow Oblast. Maybe I'll have something to speak about the next morning, because kabooms will happen for sure. And yeah, there is already some of the kaboom happen in Oriol city of Russia. Interesting start. Alright, now officially the Department of State of the United States of America approved the selling of 3,350 Iran missiles, extended range attack munition, for Ukraine. So this will be purchased by European partners and delivered to Ukraine. It's not the direct military support of the United States, no, but at least like that Ukraine may have some of the long-range tools. I think I told you about Iran munition not long time ago, so I will not put a lot of attention on that, but what we know that this specific shell was designed especially for Ukraine. Maybe that's why this deal was confirmed.
Ativo soviético or russo.
Yeah, we may not know Portuguese. Yeah, I'm sure that some of guys who watch me from Brazil, from Portugal, they know Portuguese. President today stated that Donald Trump is Russian or, Soviet or Russian spy, he says. For Portugal president, it seems like it is clear. Well, I'm not sure about this one. Like, everything could happen. My own conspiracy theory or speculation is that Russians have something on Donald Trump. Some videos from Epstein Island or something like really huge. That's why he's not willing to push Russia in any sort of the way. Yeah, it's kind of interesting to hear this stuff from officials already of the countries. And Portugal is not the last country in the European Union. Alright, there is also the situation with the Russian submarine fleet. According to the satellite images, the submarine bases for Russian Northern Fleet appear to be almost empty. It means that Russian submarines, which are carrying nuclear missiles, are somewhere in their mission. Attack submarines are currently out to sea, possibly in response to recent charges in defensive posture by nuclear-powered submarines operated by United States, Navy and NATO. And just yesterday on my stream I monitored the Flight Radar 24 where some of the reconnaissance aircraft were flying trying to find Russian submarines close to Scotland, but it seems like they didn't find any. Yeah, like this one, NATO hunts for Russian submarine in Arctic, Boeing P-8A Poseidon. Yeah, probably this smaller one, and this bigger one, well, it's an air tanker. A very precise article, I would say, from the Atlantic. Did the White House not understand what Putin was really offering? And here they say what I tell you in my videos, that demands for Russia is for Ukraine to capitulate, to give up own territories for Russia, which yet not been occupied by Russian forces. In the article they tell that Trump definitely wants to stop this war, but he doesn't care how. So occupation of Ukraine is just one more option for Doni. He wants just to be this peacekeeper and he doesn't care what might happen next in a few years. That's why we see this reaction from Europe like, Doni, what are you doing? No, Ukraine will not give up its territory to Russia. It's the threat not just for Ukraine but for entire Europe. So yeah, very nice article, I read it, and journalists, they know more than Donald Trump, White House officials. They definitely want to knock to Donald Trump's head that, guy, what are you doing? Even his favorite news outlet, the New York Post, they told Donald Trump that no, Putin is a dictator. You cannot make the deal on demands of the dictator. No. But it seems like Donnie's brain is out. Maybe the remains of the brain leaked from his ear and then the shooter did kind of the clumsy job. Yeah, trying some humor here, but the situation is actually sad. My friends, I filmed some videos today and please check them out as well. By the way, you may support my job on Patreon. The link for my Patreon page is in the video description right below. Thank you guys for supporting my motivation, and I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are and have a great time.